Hello everybody and welcome back to another My Porch Prints tutorial. Today we are going to be using our newest Autumn Blush journal kit, and we're going to be putting together a little pocket flip. So if you haven't seen our pocket flip before, we actually have a tutorial up that you can watch that'll show you how to fully assemble it. So I'm not going to be doing that for you. You can go ahead and find the link for that video down in the description box below if you are interested, and it'll give you like the full tutorial on how to do it. But I went ahead and used the Autumn Blush kit and printed that on these papers and cut everything out and sort of placed them where I wanted them to go. And I'll also be taking the freebie that we have on Facebook right now for this kit. It's a little postcard freebie, so you can get those by joining our Facebook group if you want to. And just taking the Distress ink in Aged Mahogany, I'm going to be distressing the edges of all of these pieces. And I'm also going to be taking this pocket here and setting it aside because we're going to be making a little ephemera wallet, which you might have seen if you have been on our Instagram. And I'm going to be using some coffee dyed papers for that as well. It's just going in with that Distress ink around all of the individual pieces. And I'm also taking this small piece from the Autumn Blush kit that I'll be using to decorate, like make a little label, so I'm setting that aside now as well. And because I forgot to print these pieces front and back, I'm going to be using some of the pockets from the kit to sort of cover up the areas I don't want to show like white on. So if you print yours front and back, you won't have to worry about that, but this is just my quick solution for that. And then using Fabri-Tac, we're just going to go ahead and do a quick assembly here. And then going ahead with that little ephemera piece from the kit, I'm also going to be taking another one of those pockets and just using that to give it a little decorative border. So just gluing that down and cutting off a little bit of the excess, and then using a corner rounding punch to round off the corners, a little bit more Distress ink, and then gluing it down. Alright, now we can go ahead and start working on that ephemera wallet piece. Originally I was going to put it on the inside of this page here, but it ended up being a little too thick to actually close the template, so instead we'll be putting it on the cover. And to make this, you're just going to take an 8.5 by 11 standard sheet of paper. It can be coffee dyed or printed, whatever you'd like to use. And we're just going to fold it in half and then fold it in half again. And then taking that pocket cover, we're going to be lining it up in the corner to the edges that are not open, like the folded edges. See, like this one here. And then we're going to be cutting off these open edges, just using that pocket as a guide. Like so. And these make two pockets technically, so I made 3 of these, and that was going to make enough for all of the postcards, so I just did this 3 times. And what you're going to do is take the piece and open it up and add a little bit of glue to the edge of one side. Trying to keep it close to the edge, fairly thin. Oops, spilled a little. And then we're going to fold it shut and give it a little squeeze. And there you go, that makes like the 2 little pockets here. And we're going to add a bead of glue down the center like this. You don't want to get it anywhere else, just in the center. And this is going to give it that like wallet opening quality. Give it a little squeeze. And there you go. Those are your 2 little pockets. So I already made one earlier, and to assemble them, again, we're just going to do that bead of glue right down the center and sandwich the 2 pieces together. just like that. And I would be careful about pulling them apart right after gluing, maybe let them dry a little bit, but I wanted to show you how this would kind of work. So going ahead and doing that one more time. All right. And it's gonna work with the pocket in the front like this. And I'm also decided to make sort of like a paper, I guess, clasp, maybe is what I'd call it, like a little cover to fold over the top. So I'm taking another one of those pocket pieces, it could just be any scrap piece of paper that you have, and sort of gently folding it down and giving it like a little crease here so I can sort of see where my edges are. And we're gonna add buttons here, and that's how the little ephemera wallet is gonna stay closed. Ended up swapping it out for 2 smaller buttons. I just kind of like the way that looked. Alright, so grabbing all of our pieces here, I'm going to glue this pocket onto the front, only putting it on the sides and bottom so that it remains a pocket, like this. And then adding a little bit of distress ink to that little paper clasp that we're making. And I'm just going to be gluing it onto the back so that it folds over. And again, I didn't have this piece printed front and back, so I'm adding a little bit of decorative paper here to kind of cover up the white. Cutting off the extra, just like this. All right. And going back over it with a little bit of distress ink since I kind of smudged it accidentally. And then I decided to take some scissors and round off the corners here. And then taking those little ephemera cards, just filling those little pockets. Just like that. All right, so we're gonna take some glue and just glue the entire thing down. Onto the front cover here. And then adding a good dollop of glue to each of the buttons to make sure that they kind of stand up, and then adding scissors to sort of let it dry for a while. And once it's semi-dry, I'm going to go ahead and work on the inside. And for that, we're going to be making some hidden note cards. Again, we did something sort of similar on our Instagram, so this may look familiar to some of you. I'm going to be taking our pocket tags from the Autumn Blush kit, and I'm going to be using some distress ink to distress the tags a little bit. And then taking 2 of those little tags, we're going to be gluing them front and back. And for this, you want to use like a really thin bead of glue as close to the edge as possible. This will give you a lot more room to actually put your hidden note inside. So just going around the entire edge, gluing those 2 pieces together like so. And I accidentally used a regular piece of paper for my first note card. Don't do that. You'll want to use cardstock instead. This is just too flimsy and it won't work. So I had to redo it. But for the actual hidden note tag itself, you're going to be cutting the top off like so, and then using a small pair of scissors or like a pencil or something, just go ahead and create a little bit of space inside of it like this. This is where our hidden note is going to be going. Doing the same to the little top piece. Just like that. And then I went ahead and grabbed some antique notebook paper from our antique notebook paper pack and printed it front and back, and then using one of those tags just to sort of give me a rough estimate of the size we'll need. We'll have to cut it down to fit, but this is a good starting point. And just go ahead and try to fit it in and sort of gauge how much you need to cut off. I just basically eyeballed it, cutting off a little bit at a time until it fit. Sort of a trial and error process. I noticed it got a lot faster and easier when I made the second one, so practice makes perfect. Don't worry if it is a little bit of a struggle the first time. And I would also recommend only inking after you've cut all your edges off. I kept inking it and then having to cut more off, so to save ink, wait until you're done. And then using a little bit of distress ink and a script stamp, I went ahead and added some decorative script to it and a little bit of glue as well to glue it in to the little hidden note top, cutting off extra at the bottom till it fit. All right, and there you go. When it's done, it should just fit in the pocket like usual, and you can take the little tag out, but there's a little secret inside. You got the little hidden note in there. And I went ahead and did it again for the second one, and as you can see, it looks a lot better. Like, you can hardly see the crease at all, like where it's cut, and it slides in and out a lot easier than the first one. So again, just give it a couple tries. And there you go. There is your little hidden note pocket tag. All right, so just gluing those down like so. I'm going to be taking some of these coffee dyed label sheets that we have in the shop. Again, all of this will be linked down below. And I'm going to be cutting out a few to use here. I specifically chose the ones that have like a dark purple maroonish colored ink on them as opposed to like black or brown. And then taking one of the pockets from the kit and just cutting it up to use sort of this like purple striped background. I realized too late that there's actually an entire sheet with this pattern on it in the kit. I just grabbed what was nearby. I guess I was just sort of in crafting brain mode, so I didn't have to waste this pocket. You can just use the pretty paper that comes with the kit. And then also a little bit of coffee dyed lace here, which the glue with the lace kind of gives it this shiny quality, so if you don't like that, maybe try using a different glue, but I personally kind of loved it, so that's what I'll be using. It doesn't show up in all lighting, but I like the way it looked, so go ahead and add those layered pieces, doing the purple stripe on the background, then the lace, then the label, adding distressing to all of those layers and gluing it down. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing with the second one. Just like that. And then for this large pocket on the side, I'm going to be using this chocolate label that comes in the dark purple color, and again, same process, just a little bit bigger. And there you go. I really like the way these labels turned out, actually. Probably my favorite part, I think, of this. And then just taking a little bit of this lace ribbon in like an off-white color and gluing that down to the top. And I had that scrap from when we made the hidden tags earlier that I had to cut off the bottom, so I thought it was kind of pretty and I wanted to use it, so I'll be taking that along with some of the page tabs that come with the Autumn Blush kit, and I'll just be cutting one of those out and using that along with some of the journal words that come with the kit. And I'm just going to be making a little tab here to go on the very top of the pocket flip. And with the journal words, I went ahead and cut them down just a little bit to make them a bit smaller to fit. And for the top one, I took a little scrap of that purple striped paper again and just gave it a little bit of a border. Going with the distress ink and glue and gluing everything down. And because I was just kind of eyeballing it, it's not perfectly straight, but that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. Alright, and moving to the cover here, we're going to be taking a little bit of this like hemp string and wrapping it around the buttons. If you find that your buttons are a little too flat for this, you could go ahead and use puff tape instead of glue, and that might give them a little more dimension and make it a little easier. And then I'm going to be grabbing a bunch of ephemera that comes from the Autumn Blush journal kit, including this little window tag here. And again, I didn't print on the inside, so I'm going to cover up this white by just taking a little bit of that striped scrap paper and gluing it on the inside. And for the tag itself, I just decided to real quick add a journal word to it. Just like that. And then taking this small little ephemera piece from the kit, I'm just going to be tucking this corner down here like this and going over that piece with a bit of distress ink to make it pop, and then grabbing a small paper clip, like a mini paper clip, to keep it in place. Just like that. And that is the cover finished. So moving on to the inside here, I'm just going to be taking a bunch of different ephemera pieces and tucking them into the pockets. And I also had this new stamp that we just got. I haven't used it before, so I wanted to try it out. So I went ahead and did that with a little bit of distress ink. Accidentally did it upside down the first time. That's okay though. Right, and continuing to fill those pockets with ephemera pieces here. And then going ahead and grabbing some of those larger postcards and the scrap notebook paper that I printed earlier, I'm just going to go ahead and glue those together, cutting them down to fit inside the pocket with a bit of distress ink, just like this. And then adding those into the little pocket here on the side, just like that. And then I decided to add a little bit of decoration to the bottom pocket here. So I'm going to be taking this library card pocket that comes with the kit and just cutting off the little tabs, adding a bit of distress ink and gluing it down. And I also went ahead and took another scrap from that notebook paper, that cardstock that we had, and that script stamp, just adding sort of a decorative little border here to the bottom. Just gluing that little border down, and then I had that notebook paper from earlier that was too flimsy to use for the note card, but I still had the scraps, so I decided I would just tear the edges off, again going in with that script stamp and the distress ink, smearing it a little bit with my fingers, but I ended up kind of liking it, so I kept it. And then just folding it up and tucking it into the pocket. Alright, just like that. And last but not least, we're going to make a little label here for the mid pocket that we have. So I'm just going to be cutting up this ephemera card since I didn't have any labels that I thought fit quite right. I just decided to make my own. So I'll be cutting this up and using it with that purple paper again, distressing the edges. And I just sort of eyeballed what I needed for this border, just kind of cutting it to fit how I think it looked right. And then using a corner rounding punch on the corners. And if you wanted to, you could glue a decorative paper onto the back of this to sort of hide it and just keep it as its own separate piece, but I'm just going to leave mine blank and I would probably just glue it into a journal. Alright, so that is going to finish today's Autumn Blush Pocket Flip tutorial. I hope you got some new inspiration, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Bye!